You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up the better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 9th part of What If Naruto Enters Winxclub. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Pixel's Fanbook on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Back with Naruto and Tecna. So, let me get this straight. Naruto says he was clean and in a new outfit as he sits on a beanbag, in front of Tecna who sat on a recliner as they were in his lounge. You built a device that can link two minds together while one is able to walk through this link and look into the mind and memories of that person? He asks and Tecna nods. Yes, that's right. Tecna says. And it's untested? Naruto asks, pointing to the device in question on his table and Tecna nods again. Yes. Tecna says. And you want to use it on me, in hopes that you can go into my mind and see if you can figure out how to jumpstart my memories and have them return? Naruto asks and Tecna nods. Yes. Tecna says as Naruto sighs and slouches back into the beanbag. Do you think that it's a good idea? Naruto says, crossing his arms. I mean, a lot could go wrong here. Like we could lose all our memories, or personalities. Or it could fry our minds or swch us around. There's a lot riding on this Tecna. And we can lose a lot if this fails. I know this, I thought about it and weighed all the potential risks and the success this could have, but I have no other option, Naruto. I can't really do the testing as no one would be willing to go through with this, and I can't test this on animals, that would be too cruel to do that to them. Tecna says, looking down as she was starting to feel bad. Naruto looks at her and understood why she resorted to this. Most people would reject the offer once they learned about the device's purpose and its current status, and using it on an animal was just an inhuman act. Apart from being a nature lover, he too was understood animals to a degree. Seeing the woodland animals in the forest and by his secret garden spot filled him with happiness. He starts thinking about the pros and cons should he do this, thinking about the risks he mentioned, but felt a glimmer of hope that this could bring back his memories and also finally stop the night terrors he has been having as of late. He sighs as he comes to his decision and turns to Tecna. Is it safe? Naruto asks and Tecna looks up at him. Huh? Tecna utters. I'm asking if it's safe for us to use it. Naruto asks. Why yes. About 75% sure. Tecna stutters as Naruto looks at her. 75% sure. Then what about the other 25%? Naruto asks and Tecna started to look sheepish. It could kill us. Tecna says and Naruto sighs once more. He thinks about it further, weighing the pros and cons should they do this and the results from this. Sigh. Well, you only live once. Naruto mutters to himself before looking at Tecna and nods. Alright, let's do it. He says. Taking Tecna by surprise at how quickly he accepted this. Are you sure? Tecna asks as Naruto nods again. Yeah, why not? I mean, you made the machine, which means you took your time to create and you're one of my closest friends, which means I can trust you with my life. So, why not? Naruto says, shrugging his shoulder as he smiles. Tecna looks at him with wide eyes as her cheeks start to red in color as she looks down and starts playing with her fingers. Thank you. Tecna stutters while Naruto blinks at the sudden change of mood before he chuckles a little. It's no problem Tecna, Naruto says. He then looks at the device on his table. So, how does this really work? What do I have to do? He asks as Tekna composes herself. Oh, right. Tekna says before clearing her throat and picking up the device and holding it in front of the blonde. This is the main component that is responsible for the link between the users, the drifter as I call it. Its main purpose aside from powering the whole device is to maintain a consent link between the two minds and these. She says as she places the drifter back onto the table and holds out two metallic headsets, are what allows the two minds to drift together. They're sort of receivers for the drifter. You simply wear it and it'll do the rest. She says and Naruto nods, listening to her explanation. Okay. I see. Naruto says, taking in what was said. So, what should we do? He asks. We need to be comfortable and place the receivers over our heads. Tenka says. And then? Naruto asks. Then, we have to clear our minds, not let anything come into our thoughts and not let anything else distract us. Tekna says and Naruto nods. Oh, okay, Naruto says. The two then start getting comfortable in their seats before they put on the headsets. Ready? Tekna asks as Naruto slouches into his beanbag and nods. Yeah, ready. Naruto says and Tekna lets out a long exhale as her finger hovers over the activation button to the Mindwalker. Okay, here we go in 3, 2, 1. Tekna says before she presses the button and the Mindwalker turns on and the two a sudden rush of pain as various flashes of memories flash within their minds as the majority of the memories were from Tekna while the rest, the little that was the rest were from Naruto. The pair endured the pain in their heads as the drift continue and BLD begins to drip from their noses in the real world as Tekna opens her eyes and takes in deep breaths. She looks around and sees that she was in the middle of a slightly dark hallway where various pipes of different sizes were attached to the walls. Where am I? Tekna asks with her voice echoing. She hears the echoing as she looks down at herself and sees that she wasn't in the inventing outfit she was wearing previously, but had on a white full-body suit with green and purple trimmings around it. She looks around the hallway some more as a realization comes to her. I'm inside of Naruto's mind. Tekna utters, eyes open wide as a bright smile begins to appear on her face. It worked, it worked. Ha ha ha. Eat your heart out there. She yells while continuing to laugh out loud before eventually calming down as she looks around the hallway, and sees the various pipes. Okay, so if this is Naruto's mind, then I should follow the pipes and sees if they'll lead me to at least his memories. She says before looking forward and walking down the hallway, with water submerging her feet and splashing with each step she takes. With Bloom. The white horse, outside of Magix. Hey! But you guys picked the best area. That doesn't count. Bloom yells, frustrated at how the two witched from earlier were smirking at her. The reason why she was frustrated and why the witches were smug was that Miss Greta had told the three that in order to get the job, they'd have to sever the most customers from an area for the restaurant and had to have a positive response from said customers in order for them to get the job. And the two witches had picked the porch and sunroom, only leaving Bloom with the back and bar. There are a lot more people on the porch and sunroom and the rooms inside are almost empty. Bloom says as the two witches just scoff. You should have thought of that before we took it, dear little fairy. Witch number 1 says. Yeah, you heard what Madame Greta said. Witch number 2 says. Whoever is able to serve the most drinks during the afternoon will get the job. Witch number 1 repeats the terms of the contest. It's not our fault if you picked the area with the least people in it. She says. That means you'll most likely lose the consent and will get the job. Huh, bye-bye. Witch number 2 says as she and her friend laugh while they walk away from Bloom, who glares at their retreating backs. Grr, witches talk too much and too quickly. They already know the pace while this is my first time being here. Bloom thought as she clenches her fist angrily before she starts to calm herself down with deep breaths. You know what, it's fine. They can have the more popular rooms, all I have to do is outperform them and I'll get the job. She thought, clenching her fist as she gains a new burst of determination. She walks around her areas, hoping to see if any of the customers sitting there would want something, and sure enough, one did. "May I please have a glass of root beer?" One man asks as Bloom brightens up at the opportunity and rushes over to him. "Right away, sir." "Oh, and do you want anything else, sir?" "We have Wonder sandwiches, or perhaps you'd like an after-dinner drink or dash." Bloom was listing off the menu until the customer raises his hand, cutting her off mid-sentence. "And no. Just the root beer, please," the customer says as Bloom blinks before she smiles and nods. "Okay. But it'll be the best root beer you'll ever drink," Bloom eagerly says as she walks away to go and get the drink ready, leaving the customer confused by what just happened. She walks over to the bar and to the bartender. "1 glass of root beer, please," she says as the bartender looks at her and nods. "You got it," the man says as he starts making the order. Bloom smiles at that before noticing Greta was looking a bit annoyed by something. "Oh, my rheumatism isn't giving me any peace. First with the rain from yesterday and today's near unbearable humidity. It's just no end to it," Greta says, feeling her skin ache from the changes in weather as Bloom walks up to her and heard what she said. "Maybe you should adjust the air conditioner more. You would feel a lot better with better air," Bloom says, and Greta looks at her with a raised eyebrow. "Do you think so, little girl?" Greta asks and Bloom nods. "Well, I can't make any sense of these strange machines. And Joseph isn't here. He's the only one who knows how to even work the DMN thing," she says with irritation at this. Bloom thinks this over and comes up with a solution. "You know, I could go and adjust it. At my mother's flower shop, I always adjusted the conditioner there. Maybe I can go and adjust it here for you," Bloom suggests, and Greta actually thought about it. "Oh really?" "Well, Greta was saying, but she gets cut off. "Hey! The root beer is ready," the bartender yells, and Bloom looks at him and nods before turning back to Greta. "I'll take care of the customer and then I'll go and adjust the air conditioner and you'll feel better. You'll see," Bloom yells as she walks toward the bar and grabs the order and takes it over to the customer. "Here you go, 1 tall glass of root beer," she says with a smile as she places the order on the table in front of the customer, who nods and smiles. "Thank you," the customer says as Bloom nods again and leaves to go and see where were the controls to the air conditioner. While she walks, Greta smiles and places her finger on her chin in thought. "What a quick little girl. I was just like that when I was her age. Let's see what else she'll do," Greta thought, seeing Bloom and thinking about something else. Back with Naruto and Tekna. Tekna continues walking down the hallway, not knowing exactly where she was going and having no clear idea of how long she had been walking for. "Okay, where am I really? I've been walking around for who knows how long and I've got no idea, except walking down this very long hall with water by my feet," Tekna says as she walks. She looks down at her feet and sees them semi-submerged in the ankle-high water and frowns in thought. "Now that I think about it, why is there water in Naruto's mind? What's the reasoning behind it?" she says. She continues to walk for a bit more down the hallway when... "What's he doing?" a voice echoes through the hallway, causing Tekna to stop and look around to see where it came from. "Huh?" Tekna utters as she sees the hallway starts fading away and she sees a new area begin to appear. It was an area that was a grassy area where several buildings which were erected over time. The main building had a giant sign with a strange symbol she had never seen before. And in front of the large building were people, adults, and children, all looking happy, with most of the children wearing a strange headband, either on their foreheads, or arms, using it as a belt, or had it tied to their upper arms. "Didn't you hear? He failed the Genin exam and apparently, it was his 3rd time. Meaning he can't retake it again." Tekna hears someone whisper as she turns to the source and sees 2 women whispering to one another. "Oh, good. Maybe now it'll learn that it can't be a ninja for this village. One of the two women whispers as she glares at something in the distance. Tekna follows the woman's line of sight to where she was glaring and sees a familiar sun-yellow blonde, wild spiky-haired boy, sitting on a swing under a tree while looking at the crown in front of him with a dull and depressed expression. Is that, Naruto? Tenka asks, surprised in seeing Naruto just sitting there with an expression like the one he had on. She's never seen him like this and she felt that it didn't suit much at him. Shoo. Be quiet, you don't want to get into trouble, it's the law by Lord Third. Tenka heard one of the women whisper as she turns and sees one had a finger to her mouth, a gesture that told her other friend to be quiet. Right, sorry. The other woman says. But you're right, if anything, it should finally teach him to just give up and leave the village. We don't need demons here in our village. The first woman says as the second woman solemnly nods. True, true. The second woman says as the screen fades away, leaving Tenka standing in the middle of darkness as her feet were semi-submerged into the water again. She frowns. Lord Third. Demon. What were those women talking about and why did Naruto look so sad and lonely? Was that one of his lost memories? Tekna asks, wondering what was all that about and what happened to Naruto. What happened in his life before coming to Magix? And just what do we have here? Tekna stiffens upon hearing a dark and sinister voice speak, a voice that had such anger and power to it that it made her entire body freeze. She slowly turns to the voice which sounded like it was behind her as she comes face to face with a large red cell that had a piece of paper onto it with strange writing onto the paper. She looks at the cell as red bubbles begin to form from the cell and start to take form into something that she had never seen before. The bubbles were taking the form of a head from a red-orange colored fox-like being that had black lines around its red eyes that stretch up to its ears. The fox-like being looks at the frozen and frightened Tekna with its red eyes as it narrows them. A human here, in my prison. Ha, and it's one of the brat's little fairy friends. What are the odds for one to come to my domain? This being growled out, as its red eyes glow and stare at Tekna. What is this? Why can't I feel or move my body? What is this thing that makes me feel frightened and, like I'm about to die? Tekna mutters under her breath. The fox-like being forms a paw-like humanoid hand as it moves it to her and takes her chin, lifting her head up to its eye level. Listen here little fairy, run along to your friends, tell them about me, and tell them, that I will escape from the brat, the mind you're in, and I will devour your world. The fox growls out, causing Tekna's eyes to widen in shock. W-ah. Tekna says but before she could say or do anything else, the fox lifts its paw high in the air above Tekna, causing her eyes to widen further as it sends its paw down at her and ah! Tekna wakes up and yelps as she falls out of her seat as Naruto wakes up not that sooner after she did as he grabs his chest. Holy CRP! Naruto shouts, trying to catch his breath, wondering why was he feeling like he felt dread and death. He turns to Tekna and sees something was wrong with her. Tekna. Are you okay? He asks. Except he didn't get a response from her, as she just looked petrified and non-responsive, which causes Naruto to grab her by her shoulders and shakes her. Tekna. Naruto yells, hoping that he could get her to respond and it seems to work as Tekna blinks. H-huh. Tekna utters, blinking as she snaps out of the catatonic state she was in. Tekna, are you okay? She hears Naruto speaks and turns to him and sees the concerned expression on his face. Why yeah, I'm fine. Tekna mutters, still looking lost. Are you sure? You look pale and you're cold. What happened? Naruto asks. Why yeah. Tenka utters, still in her dazed state. Just then, the two hear some commotion behind them as they turn and see the Mindwalker sparking and in flames. Oh, CRP. Your device. Naruto yells and acts fast. He rushes over to his garage station and grabs a fire extinguisher, uses it on the device, extinguishing the flames. After a while doing this, Naruto stops using the extinguisher and the two see the device was destroyed beyond repair, there was nothing that could be salvageable. "Oh, man, Tekna, I'm so sorry your device is destroyed," he utters, feeling extremely bad for Tekna and feeling that it was his fault it had been destroyed. Tekna just looks at the device she spent her time on the table, burnt and damaged. She stands up and walks over to it and picks it up and holds it to her face and looks at it with deep thought. "It's fine, I guess I hadn't anticipated the main power won't be able to handle it, my mistake." Tekna whispers, still in her dazed state. "Tekna, are you really okay? You seem off." Naruto asks, he sees she was off, and wonders what happened in his mind for her to be like this as she just blinks and turns to him. "I'm okay Naruto, really," Tekna says as she looks back to the device in her hands and lifts her head up. "I have to go now. I'll see you later," she just says as she turns around and processes to leave the room. "Okay, bye," Naruto says, seeing her leave as he stands there, extinguisher in hand and in thought about what happened to his friend. In the tunnel, Tekna continues to walk for a bit as her legs start to shake before finally giving away as she falls to her knees and she holds onto the wall of the tunnel as she holding her other hand to her chest and hyperventilate as she tries to calm herself down again. "I need to tell the others about what I saw. I have too. This is something they need to know, and need to keep to themselves, and never tell Naruto what I saw in his mind. Because whatever I saw, I could that it was telling the truth that it'll destroy us all if it got out." Tekna thought, as she remains there in the tunnel, trying and failing in calming herself as she knew, something deeper was at play here and felt that the fate of Magix was at risk sooner or later. And at that time, she had no idea, how right she was, for the fate of Magix and the surrounding dimensions would be at risk in the future. Lounge, Winx Dormalfia, Magix. Wednesday night. We kick this chapter off, just a few hours after the events of the last chapter as we see the Winx sitting in their lounge while they were staring at Tekna, who they found sitting on the couch waiting for them, with a dazed expression. "Okay Tekna, you called us here to talk about something. What is it that was so urgent?" Stella asks, looking at Tekna who was still in her dazed phase as the others were getting worried, they had never seen her like this ever. Tekna, are you okay?" The princess of the group asks the tech-savvy fairy who is still non-responsive and looks a bit out of it. "Tekna." She calls out to Tekna once more and it looks like it worked as Tekna blinks a bit, perhaps adjusting to her surroundings as she speaks. "Girls, I think, I learned something about Naruto's past," Tekna says, catching the girls' attention. "Really?" Musa asks, surprised by this as she and the others see Tekna nod slightly. "How did you find out?" she asks, wanting to know just how she was able to make this discovery, and so were the others as they wait for Tekna to say how. "I made a device that could allow two people to establish a mental link and enter a mind for their choice," Tekna says. This makes the girls look at her with surprised looks when they hear she finished her device. "Oh, the device you were working on, the Mind Walker, right? You finished it and it works?" Bloom asks as Tekna nods. "Yes, it did. I was able to complete it and I went to Naruto so we could use the device and look into his subconscious. Once we had established a link, I started looking around his subconscious, looking for anything that was a lost memory and using it to maybe jumpstart his mind and restore his memories. But..." Tekna stops talking and goes silent as the girls look at her in confusion. "But what?" Musa asks. "I found a memory, one that looked lost. It was for some rural village and a building of people and children outside. I think it was a school of some sort since the children there were mostly young to teenagers while the people there were adults, the children's parents. I saw then Naruto, sitting on a swing hanging under a tree branch, looking at the children and parents with a look of depression. And Tenka pauses for a moment before continuing to explain. I could hear whispers, whispers from the adults saying things like saying that he didn't pass some exam and that we're glad he failed since they didn't want him as a ninja. She says, with the other girls raising their eyebrows at the last thing she said. Ninja? Naruto wanted to be a ninja? Stella asks as Tekna just shrugs her shoulders. Yes, they did say ninja. Which confused me. But they said that he should have left the village since they did want demons in the village, which again confused me. But the memory faded away, and before I could even go look for another one or think about what I saw, something happened. Tekna says but stops and the others look at her. What happened? Bloom asks as Tekna just holds herself and starts to shiver. This catches the others' attention. There was something in Naruto's memories. Something that felt unnatural. Tekna just utters, as her shivering just intensifies as the girls look at her in mild surprise, since Tekna hardly shows any emotional expressions. What was it? Flora asks and Tekna just turns to them and they see her expression change. It was some creature, a red-orange colored fox-like being that had black lines around its red eyes that stretched up to its ears. It was there, looking at me with its red eyes, and it made me freeze in fear from it. It felt so sinister and rageful. It was like I was being choked from its glare alone, but I felt like I felt the rage it had before. I just can't figure out where I felt it. Tekna says as she remembers the feeling she had when she came face to face with that thing she saw inside Naruto's mind. This causes Bloom to start thinking about something that she feels like she known. Wait, Tekna. You said that this creature you saw had red eyes, correct? Bloom asks as she sees Tekna nod, and these red eyes, were the pupils slit? She asks and sees Tekna nod again, which confirms her theory. I think I know where you felt that before. We all have. The red-haired says as everyone turns to her. Where? Stella asks as Bloom looks at them. That weird red energy Naruto used back at the night of the party and attack from the tricks. And just recently with that dream monster and the tricks again. It's that red thing he goes into whenever he's really angry. Bloom says and everyone thinks about what she said and realizes she was right. You're right. That would make sense since it did have that same rageful feeling Naruto had when he went into the red energy mode. Tekna says, snapping her fingers in realization while berating herself on how stupid she was for not realizing this sooner. Okay, let's make and compare notes on the things we know about Naruto, just so we can make some sense of this mystery since this is getting too much for me to process. Stella says and everyone can't help but agree. So, the girls stood up from their seats and went to their rooms to get notebooks, pencils, and pens. They returned to the lounge and took their seats with their notebooks and pens/pencils in hand as they started listing off the information they had about the blonde. Okay, so, first off, we all know that he has amnesia and the only memories he has are for his name, that's it. That's all he remembers. Bloom says. And we know that he's from some unknown dimension that speaks an ancient language that only a handful of the people in my home dimension understand. Since I can sort of hear him whenever he says something from that language. Musa says as the other wrote that down. There's also that time he was standing on water back at the lake. Tekna says. He looked like he did subconsciously and he instantly fell into the water when we pointed that out, like his feet realized that he wasn't on solid ground. She says. And there's the fact he's a lot stronger than the average red fountain specialist. Flora says with everyone turning to her. Back in the forest, after Mirta got cursed, he reacted badly and punched craters into the ground, with only 6 strikes before his knuckles started to bleed from the hits. She says as everyone remembered she was right since he came to their dorm the day after that incident with his hands completely healed. They took note of that. Also, he heals quickly. Back at the attack from the WHP the tricks created, he was rag-tossed all over the place before he was tossed to the side. And moments later, he's back on his feet, with that red energy around him, and had little to no injuries on him from the WHP. Bloom says as Musa flinches and winces. Don't remind me of that night. It's too soon to talk about it. Musa says as she holds her chest from the phantom pains and memories of that night. The others notice this and are reminded of what else happened that night. Sorry. Bloom says, feeling bad for bringing that up as Musa just smiles at her, a way to tell her that it was okay. But you are right about he can heal faster than anyone I've seen. And from what we know, Miss Farragonda did say that he has this large reserve of energy in him but can't use it due to his amnesia. Stella says. 2, don't forget she said he has 2 in him. One is his own and the other one is something else and bigger than his own. Flora remains them for the second large pool of energy Naruto has, and this makes them think. Maybe, it'd make some sense since for one, there's been about 2 times he's used that red energy, and that thing I saw, could be a manifestation of it or, the red energy comes from that thing. Tekna says as she ponders on this for a bit. Like whatever that thing was that Tekna saw, could have been sealed in him. Stella asks. Maybe. Musa says, shrugging her shoulders as she is uncertain about that, while Bloom is confused by what was said. Sealed in him. Is that a thing here? Bloom asks and the others turn to her and nod. Yeah, it's a thing. It's ancient magic though and not a lot of people know how to do that anymore. It's where you take something powerful, say a magical artifact, and place a magical chant onto yourself and on the item in question and seal it within your body. At most times, this is done as a last resort to hide something from others. Flora explains while Bloom nods, understanding things clearer now. Stella then lets out a long sigh. Man, just when we think we have some understanding of Naruto, something comes up and throws a wrench and changes everything we know about him. I wish things could be easier to find out just who he is. Stella says, feeling like the universe was laughing at them every time they got some understanding for their wayward blonde companion. Bloom suddenly gains an idea and turns to Tekna. Tekna, you said that your device is finished, right? Bloom asks, as Tekna looks at her and nods, can't we just use it again to look for the answers? She asks and the others look at them, hoping that this will help but Tekna shakes her head. We can't. The Mindwalker short-circuited just after we disconnected. The motherboard's fired and the power unit is shot. We can't use it until I get the right parts that can withstand another overload that could occur. Tekna says as she slouches back onto the couch, now feeling that she'd spent some long nights on the device, again. Stella sighs again and 2 slouches back into her seat. Great, just great. What are we doing to do now? Stella asks as Flora looks at her. We do what we've been doing this whole time. Flora says as Stella turns to her. Which is? Stella asks, with a raised eyebrow. We wait and see what happens and go from there. Flora says. So, it's the long game then. Stella says and she sees Flora nod as she sighs again and looks up at the ceiling before she nods. Okay, I can deal with that. She says. At least we have some clues to go with from here. In the beginning, we had nothing. Bloom says as she shows the others her notebook which had a drawing of Naruto on it, with multiple links around him with facts and clues they had about or on him. Yep, and we've got some understanding on some things now. Musa says. And the other agreed with that statement. For now, I think we should think up ways to at least try and jumpstart Naruto's memories. She says as the others nod and begin discussing other ways to help Naruto regain his memories. While they were discussing these ways, they completely forgot that someone else was in the lounge with them, on the table, and was awake to hear all they were saying and had discussed. What are they talking about? Naruto has amnesia. Mirda thought, as her pumpkin form had a curious expression, looking at the Winx as they talked. Lounge, Winx dorm Althea, Magix. Friday morning. A week passed and things were back to normal for the most part at Althea. We see the girls at their dorm, by their lounge during various tasks. Are you sure that this stuff works? Bloom asks Stella while holding a brush in her hand, with the brush having some green concoction. She was Stella. With her hair. Yeah, it's a hair conditioner that Flora concocted. And I fully trust our fairy flower child. Right, Flora? Stella says, turning to Flora, who was by the table, looking at Pumpkin Myrta while she was wearing her glasses. She was more comfortable wearing them with the others around. She was busy with Myrta, trying to lift the curse set on her as she turned to Stella when she called to her and nods. Yeah, it will rejuvenate and add color to your hair in no time. Flora says with a smile before she turns back to Myrta. Stella then looks at Bloom with a smile. See, there's nothing to worry about. Stella says as Bloom just shrugs her shoulders. Okay then. Bloom says before she starts applying the conditioner to the princess's hair. Musa was busy practicing her guitar skills by just strumming a calm melody while Tekna was by the couch, typing on her laptop as she was busy programming some software she was developing. Knock, knock. Just then, the girls hear a knock coming from their tunnel door and the door opens with Naruto popping out of it. Morning ladies. Naruto chirpy greets the girls as he climbs into the room. Naruto. Hi. The girls greeted back as they were surprised to see him arrive in their dorm. Naruto, I thought you were at work today. Bloom says as Naruto looks at her. I would be at work if it wasn't that I got a day off today from my boss. He closed up shop since he said he had to go for something important today happening over at Red Fountain. Naruto says as he walks over to the sleeping Kiko and rubs the bunny's head, with the bunny smiling at the feeling. Really? The girls ask and see Naruto nod. What's going over there? Flora asks. He said he was going to watch the Red Fountain exhibition. Naruto says as Stella looks at him in shock. Wait, there's happening today? Stella asks as Naruto grins and nods. Yep. Naruto says as the girls look intrigued by this while Bloom is confused. Excuse me for asking, but what is the Red Fountain exhibition? Bloom asks. It's a showcase over at Red Fountain. It's to show the attendees and parents the future of their knights and wizards. It's pretty much to show what the school has to offer, and it's something you really can't miss if you're in Magix. Naruto says. Wow, that sounds interesting to watch. Bloom says, now intrigued by the exhibition. Yep, which is why I'm going. Naruto says as the girls look at him. Huh? Tekna utters, with a raised eyebrow. Do you have an invitation to it? She asks and sees Naruto shake his head. Nope. Naruto proudly declares as the girls were confused by this. Then just how are you going to go to watch? Flora asks. Oh, that's easy. I'm sneaking into Red Fountain and going to watch the exhibition. Naruto says, this causes the girls to drop everything as they look at him with their jaws dropped. Eh. The girls yell, looking at the blonde as if he was insane as he looks at them with a raised eyebrow. What? Naruto asks, confused about their reaction. Are you insane? You want to sneak into practically one of the most guarded schools in Magix, on the day that royal families and diplomats are coming to said school. You don't think that the guards for said royal families won't be there? Girls. Calm down, you're forgetting you're talking to someone who's successfully broken into all 3 schools on several occasions. I'm practically an expert on this. Naruto says as the girls look at him, uncertain about this. Okay, Mr. Expert. Tell us, just how are you going to get into Red Fountain, without being seen by any of the guards there? Musa asks, crossing her arms. That's easy. I'll just use the ancient escape tunnels from here to Red Fountain. It will lead me just outside, on the side of the school, and from there, I'll climb a tall tree and jump from it and land on a balcony, climb over it and sneak around the campus until I reach the stands and lay low there. Naruto says, while putting his arms behind his head and grins. The girls looked at him and felt uncertain about his plan. Naruto, I don't think Bloom was saying, but Naruto cut her off. Before any of you say anything or say, this is a bad idea, let me remind you that I've snuck into Red Fountains before, snuck into it to do various pranks there, and got away with it. I've got this since I know what I'm doing. Naruto says, ensuring to the girls that this is fine. The girls look at him before looking at one another and stare at each other as if they were having a mental conversation before they nod and turn back to him. Fine, we'll believe, but we want you to do one thing for us. Bloom says with Naruto shrugging his shoulders and looks at them. Sure, what is it? Naruto asks. We want to come along. Musa says, and this makes Naruto do a double take as he looks at them. What? Naruto asks, surprised by this request as he looks at the girls. Why? He asks, wanting to know why did they want to come. Oh come on, you said it yourself, it's something you can't miss if you're in Magix. So, we're coming along to watch it with you. Tekna explains with the other girls agreeing to that by nodding along. Naruto stops for a moment and thinks it over, with his hand on his chin and eyes closed while squinting them. I don't know. Naruto says as he thinks about their request, it wasn't the first time that he and the girls snuck into another school for something, but the last time they did, they were caught and punished for it. So, it was more of a 50-50 risk for him to take should he let the girls along. He thinks about it a bit more before he shrugs his shoulders. Ah, what the heck, it'll be more fun if we're together instead of going alone. Let's do it, he shouts, with the girls smiling at this. Yes. The girls shout, ecstatic about going to see the exhibition. Naruto calms down and looks at the girls with a serious look. Let's go and get ready, meet me at the tunnels in 30 minutes so we can go to Red Fountain, it's going to take us an hour to get there if we're fast. Naruto says with the girls nodding, understanding him. He nods back before he walks over to the tunnel door and opens it. Alright, I'll see you in a bit. He says before he hops down into through the door as it closes behind him. See you. The girls as he leaves. Boom then turns to the others. Alright girls, you heard the man, let's go and get ready. She says as she and the others get up and go to their rooms to get ready for the exhibition. Arena, Red Fountain, Magix. Morning. Over at Red Fountain, people were beginning to arrive, watching the young men of the school showcase their skills to their parents and representatives for their home dimensions as the arena was beginning to fill with said spectators. And over at the VIP sections of the arena, we see Faragonda sitting, as she waits for the opening of the exhibition to start. She feels a familiar magical presence appearing on her as she turns and sees Cloud Tower's head Mstrs, Griffin arriving at the VIP section and walking toward her. Morning, Griffin. Faragonda greets the elder witch, with a sense of respect as Griffin nods to her as she takes a seat next to the elder fairy. Morning Faragonda. Griffin greets Faragonda, with Faragonda returning a nod to her. The two sat in silence for a bit before Faragonda decided to speak something that was on her mind. I understand you've expelled those 3 young witches who've caused trouble at my school. Faragonda says. She was thinking about the tricks and how they've been terrorizing her students and grandson for the past months. And their last attack on the Winx had pushed her to the edge to contact Griffin and discuss a suitable punishment for the 3. Expulsion. Yes, I have. A severe but necessary punishment. Griffin says. I see. Faragonda says, feeling a bit better that the 3 witches were punished, but she felt it wasn't enough. No one messes with her students and gets away with it. Although, while I am saddened in losing such talented students, I feel it was a need, for I sense a disturbing aura around them every time I'm close to them. Griffin says, and this makes Faragonda turn to her. You felt that as well? Faragonda asks as Griffin nods. Yes, I have. Their magical presences are dark, darker than mine is or could ever be. Suffocating, as if their presences drain the light for all around them. Griffin says, and this makes Faragonda frown, in concern. This is most disturbing, for being so young, they're already mastering the dark arts. That makes them dangerous. Faragonda says, concerned for the safety of the people of Magix and the students for their school. Agreed. Griffin says, nodding along. Someone should keep a close eye on them. Faragonda says, and Griffin just sighs. That would be difficult, since the night I expelled them, they've disappeared. There's been no sight of them for some time now. The last sighting for them was in Magix, but that trail has gone cold. I see. In that case, we must keep tabs around Magix, should they appear in the city again. We can't let them roam away for much longer than they have already. Who knows what they could be planning right now? Faragonda says as Griffin agrees with her. Letting those three plot would be a terrible thing for them. Indeed. Griffin says as they turn back to the field, waiting for the opening of the exhibition to begin as more people arrive at the VIP section and the normal sections of the arena. 20 minutes later. On the other side of the campus, by a bush, a pair of blue eyes appear inside of the bush before they start scanning the area around them, for anyone. And seeing that there was no one near them, gave the owner of the eyes a sense of safety. Okay, looks like the coast is clear, we can come out now. The person in the bush says before 5 more pairs of eyes appear in the bush with them as Naruto and the Winx climb out for the bush and dust themselves off the leaves and dirt from the bush. Next time, let's not climb out of a bush when we sneak into another place. Stella says, patting her hair for anything that could be in it as Naruto just chuckles while rubbing the head of his head. Sorry Stella, but that's the only way that we could take without altering the alarms inside the building. Naruto says, as Stella just huffs. At least we're here. And it looks like the exhibition hasn't started yet. Means we've got time to sneak in. Yeah, so what's next Mr. Expert? Tekna asks Naruto who looks around the area they were in. Let's look for a way in. A door, or a balcony with a tree near it. Naruto says. Following that logic, the Winx start walking around the area, trying to find a way into the school and from there, to the arena so they could watch the exhibition. While they walked, Musa spotted a door to their left. Hey, there's a door over there. Musa says as she points to the door and the others follow where she was pointing. You think it could get us in? She asks, looking at Naruto who just shrugs. Maybe. Never really tried any door here before. I always used the balcony. Naruto says. He goes over to the door and grabs it to open it but it wasn't moving. Nope, it's locked. He says as he lets go of the door. Maybe we'll find one that's open if we keep looking. Flora says, the others thought about that and thought it could work if they did do that. So they were going to go around and look for a door to go through but before they could. Hey! The group stops when they hear someone shout at them. They turn around and see a red fountain student standing behind them with crossed arms. Just what are you doing here? This area is restricted. The student yells at them which causes the teens to panic and be sheepish as they nervously giggle/chuckle. Ha ha ha, WL. Bloom was going to explain when Naruto placed his hand on her shoulder, which stopped her from speaking. Please Bloom, allow me to handle this like a gentleman. Naruto says as he steps forward and looks at the student in the face. Hey dude, listen, we were just hanging out, looking around and we just got lost and run. He shouts as he turns and starts running with the girls quickly follows suit and runs away with Naruto as the red fountain student looked momentarily shocked by this action. Hey! Get back here! The red fountain student yells before he gives chase to the Winx. Really? That was your plan? Running away? Musa shouts at Naruto as he looks over his shoulder and at her. Hey! I'd like to see you think of something else we could do to get away from this guy. Naruto shouts at her as the others weren't having it now for all time. Let's not do this now while we're running away from that guy. Tekna yells, making the two bickering teens shut up and continue running. Stella looks behind them and sees the students still chasing after them. What are we going to do? He's still on us. Stella yells as Naruto starts thinking about a way for them to escape. And one such way comes to mind. Split up. We go separate ways and confuse him, he won't know who to follow. Naruto yells, the girls hear him and think it was a good idea, but there was just an issue they saw with the idea. But how will we find each other should we get away? Flora asks. Hide and wait for me in one of the halls. I'll track you guys down by sensing you. Trust me on this. I will find you guys. Naruto yells, the girls think about it for a bit before turning to Naruto and nod. Okay. We trust you. Good luck Naruto. The girls yell as Naruto nods back to them. Thanks. You too. Naruto yells. The group reach a bush and the girls jump into it and hide while Naruto continues to run with the student still chasing him. Hey! Get back here! The student yells as he runs past the bush and chases Naruto. Once the student was out of sight, the girls emerged from the bush and saw that the coast was clear. Okay. Come on, let's find a way into the building. Bloom says with the others nodding as they run in the opposite direction, in search of a way inside. Naruto continues to run away from the student, with his speed being much greater than the student chasing him. As he reaches the other side of the campus, he spots a tree near him and sees it was close to an open balcony, so he rushes for it and with the speed he was going on, jumps up and grabs onto one of the branches and using the momentum from the leap and swings off the branch and lands onto the balcony where he hides as the student who was chasing him finally. What? Where did he go? The student yells as he looks around for Naruto before running off, in a direction he thinks Naruto ran. Once he hears the student running off, Naruto peeks over the ledge and sees the student was gone. And he lets out a sigh of relief. Phew, that was too close for my comfort. Naruto says, happy that he was safe. He gets up and dusts himself as he looks around at just where he was. Now, where am I? He asks himself, seeing he is in an unfamiliar place of red fountain. Knowing he was on a time limit before the exhibition would start, Naruto started walking in a direction he felt was the right one. Once he started walking down a hallway, he started noticing what was around him as he walks down the hallway. Whoa, 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 way. Look at this place. These weapons and armor. Naruto says, in awe at all the different weapons and armor that were around him, on display and in glass cases. He looks around the area and spots something. Wait, this is the king's axe from the Battle of Solaria. Yeah, I know this axe, I read about it. He says as he spots something else in the room, and this is one of the shields that were used in the War of Golden Kingdom. He says before realization strikes him as he realizes what type of room he is currently in. This place, this is an archive of the weapons and armor for all the kingdoms in the magic dimension. Wow, Hank would freak out if he learned about this place. He says as he runs his hand through his hair, in awe at the sight of all the weapons around him. He looks around a bit before he spots a small case, something that catches his attention. He heads over to the case to get a closer look at what was inside it, and once he reaches it, he sees an old rusted black dagger with a handle wrapped in old, worn-out bandages with a ring-like pommel at the bottom of the handle. He inspects the blade of the dagger and sees it had dents in it, a clear indication of the battles it had been in, but the thing that had his curiosity with there was an engraving on the blade. The engraving was a moon in its waning crescent stage with a sun-like circle next to it. And it was in white while the crescent was in black. Naruto narrows his eyes, as he looks at the dagger. What is this? Naruto asks, as he frowns, unaware to himself, his eyes shifted to red/yellow and orange and his pupils slit momentarily before they shifted back to his blue as he looks at the dagger for a bit before. Hey, you! Over there! Do not move! A loud, deep voice shouts behind him, causing Naruto to jump and freeze. Stay right there, young man. And don't think about running. The voice says as Naruto curses himself. SHT. I got spotted. Guess it was a mistake on just standing here and admiring the place. Naruto curses himself as he raises his hands and turns around to see who caught him. He sees a burly, gruff man with dark brown hair, slicked back to reveal his bushy eyebrows and widow's peak. He had a goatee that was attached to his sideburns along his jawline. He wore a dusty, gray shirt that was zipped up the front and had no sleeves, a darker blue belt, khaki-colored pants, blue boots, and silver gauntlets. He was also very muscular. "You didn't think I'd find you hiding here, now did you?" The man asks as Naruto sighs, knowing that he had no way out, and decided to speak. "Look, sir, I can explain." Naruto was saying, but the man cut him off. "Why are you here when you should be getting ready for the exhibition?" The man says as he crosses his arms. This throws Naruto completely in a loop as he looks at the man with a shocked expression. Huh? Naruto thought. The exhibition is about to start and you're not in your uniform. The man says before he points toward a hallway behind him. "Go and get changed in the locker room, get your phantom weapons, and report to the arena in 10 minutes. We'll discuss your punishment for attempting to ditch the exhibition." The man says with a strict tone while looking at Naruto with a stern look, one he's only from auntie and granny, which made him gulp down a lump in his throat. "Why yes sir," Naruto says as he runs past the man and toward the hallway before he stops in realization at something. He turns to the man and asks in a nervous tone. "Question sir, where's the locker room?" he asks, causing the man to sigh. Head down the hall, then take your first right, go down that hall, and then turn left. When you reach a section of the hall, walk down that hallway for a bit until you've reached 2 large doors. If you pass a picture of a dragon, you've gone too far, walk back." The man says and Naruto nods. Thank you, sir." Naruto yells before he starts running down the hall following the directions the man gave him, all while thinking about the situation he was now in. "Well, this was something I wasn't expecting. But, I can work with this," he thought as he continued to run down the hall. 10 minutes later. Arena, Red Fountain, Magix. The arena was now packed with spectators and guests across the magic dimension, ready to see the young men who would one day become their home dimension's knights/wizards. Over at the VIP section of the arena, more nobles, elites, and royalty of the magic dimension had arrived to watch the exhibition and cheer for their son. One of the people in the VIP section stood up from their seat and walked over to the edge of the balcony as he looked down to the audience in attendance. This person was a short, round, elderly man with thick gray eyebrows and waist-length gray hair. He was clean-shaven as he wore a simple dull tunic/robe while carrying a golden cane that had a dragon head at the top with a purple orb in the mouth. This elderly man clears his throat, with it echoing throughout the arena as the attendants quiet. "Good afternoon ladies and gentlemen, I am Saladin, Grandmaster of Red Fountain, and I welcome you all to the Red Fountain exhibition. I feel that this year's exhibition will be one of the ages. And one you all will enjoy." The man, now known as Saladin, says with the spectators cheering at that. "So, without further ado, let's welcome the fine young men of Red Fountain by bringing them onto the field with them competing in Wind Rider jousting." Saladin yells as the spectators cheer. The gates open and the students of Red Fountain shoot out onto the field, on their Wind Riders as they gave the spectators a show of their skills. One particular rider wasn't on his Wind Rider, instead, he walked onto the field while pushing it onto it as he looked at the arena in awe. He was wearing the standard Red Fountain uniform with orange on. "Whoa!" this rider utters, awestruck at this. He looks around under his helmet. He looks at the field, seeing the other Red Fountain students displaying their skills on the. Feeling challenged by this, he hops on his rider, and turns it on, revving it as he smirks under his helmet. Well, it's one thing to watch the exhibition, but to be a part of it, is something else entirely. He thought as he rode onto the field, joining the others to get this jousting going. With the Winx. Where is he? I'm getting tired of waiting here. Stella says, she and the others were in a hallway, waiting for Naruto to arrive, and Stella was losing patience. "I don't know, Stella, we can't sense him like he can with us. For all we know, he could be coming over to us, and if we move from here and he follows while we're moving, it'll irate him." "She's right, Stella, that'd be rude for us to do to him," Flora says before she frowns as a thought appears in her mind. Okay, I get it. But it's so boring just standing here and wait," Stella says. Just then, the sounds of cheers and fireworks going off were heard not too far from where the girls were, telling them the exhibition was starting. "Sounds like the exhibition is starting," Musa says. "Well, I can't just wait here any longer since the exhibition is happening outside. I wanna watch it," Stella whines, as she turns and was about to walk in the direction of where the cheers were coming from when she was stopped by Bloom. The red hair placed her hand on the blonde's shoulder. "Stella, you can't just go off and watch the exhibition. We still need to wait for Naruto," Bloom says as Stella looks at her for a bit before she sighs and stands still. It was then that Flora voiced her thoughts. "You guys don't think he was caught and is being held somewhere?" Flora asks while looking at the girls with a concerned look. This made the others turn to her and see the concerned expression. "You're thinking about that too?" Musa asks as Flora nods. This causes the girls to get concerned about their wayward friend and his safety. "Guys, we've got nothing to worry about. This is Naruto we're talking about. Someone who says that's broken into two of the most prestigious schools in the entire magic dimension. That's no way he got caught," Stella says, trying to be optimistic about things and ensure to the others that he was okay. "Yeah, but there's a possibility that he was caught. No one can avoid getting spotted forever," Tekna says, showing facts here that you can't dodge things forever. The girls fall silent for a bit before Stella snaps her fingers, altering the others as they see her smile and turn to Bloom. "Wait, Bloom. Can't you find him with your soul reading thing?" Stella asks, and this makes Bloom raise an eyebrow. "Huh?" Bloom utters, confused, but fortunately, someone was getting what Stella was asking. "She means that why don't you use your aura reading ability you unlocked during vacation time and use it to locate where Naruto is?" Tekna says. Bloom looked conflicted about it, since the ability did remind her of what she learned back home, and there was another reason. "I've never seen his before. I've seen all of yours and know what yours look like, but not his. I don't even know if I can see his," Bloom says, rubbing her arm nervously since she didn't even know if it'll work. "But it's worth a shot, right?" Musa asks. Bloom thinks about it and thinks it's their best option at the moment. So, with a sigh, she nods. "Yeah, okay. Let's try it out," Bloom says before she turns around and takes in a deep breath as her eyes begin to glow slightly and she looks around the area, seeing the various souls/auras of the attendants and guests, but the thing that made her frown, since something caught her sight. "I got nothing, but I can see anything that looks like Naruto." "Nothing. I can see everyone else, a part of a few, but that's it. I can't find him anywhere," she says. The others sigh hearing that. "Well, that helps us with nothing," Stella says, but Bloom is still using her ability as she sees something rather concerning. "But I did see something else," Bloom says. Her eyes were narrow as she looks at what she was seeing. "What?" Flora asks. "Two flame-like things in the field, with the other red fountain students. One of the flames is deep blue while the other flame is blue, slowly turning into the blue one. Maybe that's Naruto," Bloom says, with the others raising their eyebrows at that until Tekna snaps her fingers in realization. "That would make some sense since we know that he has an energy that's different from everyone else," Tekna says, remembering Naruto's unique situation as the others did so well. "Oh yeah, you're right. But the question is, how did he get into the field?" Flora asks the question of the hour. "Yeah, when you ask that, how did he?" Musa asks. Bloom continues looking at the field, seeing Naruto and what looked to be Sky and his friends taking out the others with skill and in quick fashion. Maybe something happened and, oh no. Bloom utters as her eyes widen, seeing something as the others turn to her. What? What's wrong, Bloom? Did something happen to Naruto? Stella asks. They see Bloom's eyes stop glowing as she turns to the others. We need to go to the field, now. Bloom yells before taking off as the others follow after, with confused expressions. Why Bloom? What's going on? Flora asks as Bloom turns to them with a frightful expression. Someone's on the field and they're there to kill Sky. Bloom yells. The arena. The jousting event was going well as most of the students were taken out but Sky and his friends, Naruto and another student. Leaving them and 3 others on the field. Naruto was speeding across the field, heading straight toward another student as he was using a phantom blade, which was orange, and a phantom shield. The two met in the middle and Naruto dodged under the student's blade while hitting the student in the torso with the flat side of his blade, knocking him off his Wind Rider and onto the ground, eliminating him from the joust as it was now him, Sky's group and 2 more students. Naruto rides his rider for a bit, looking at the cheering crowd, and couldn't help but smile under his helmet. This is actually a lot of fun. Why didn't I think for this last year? Naruto thought as he came to a halt and watched the others duke it out. He saw one student brutally take out another one with a slash to the face but was relieved to see that the victim of the attack was saved by his now destroyed helmet. He turns and sees one rider cut in between 2 more riders, which sends one of the 2 rides off his bike and rolls across the ground before stopping. He whines since that had to be painful. Oh, that had to hurt. He thought as he took off his helmet, revealing his blonde hair, but he had on a black mask covering the lower part of his face to his nose while his eyes were the only part that remained uncovered. Sky stops his rider and runs over to the fallen student who gets up from the floor with a bit of pain as he takes off his helmet and reveals himself to be Brandon. Hey, you okay? Sky asks, helping Brandon up to his feet who just nods. Why yeah, I'm good. Just a few bruises and scratches. But nothing too serious. Brandon says. The 2 hear a Wind Rider pull up not too far from them as they look and see the guy who knocked into them, and he takes off his helmet to reveal he was Riven, who smirks at them and this makes them angry. It's payback time, Riven. Sky says, and Brandon agrees as they walk toward the purplet to have a piece of their minds with him before they were stopped by Timmy. Guys, now's not the time to go into this. We've still got the exhibition to do. Timmy says, pulling up in front of them. The 2 glare at Timmy, who flinches at their glare, but he drives his nerves down and stands his ground as they realize that he was right as they turn to Riven, who just smirks at them. TCH whatever. Riven says before he rides off from them. The 3 watch him leave. What an butt. Sky says. Tell me about. Brandon says before he turns to Timmy. Timmy, I'm sorry for glaring at you when you were trying to stop us. He says as Sky nods. Yeah man, sorry. Sky says, and Timmy just smiles at them and waves. It's cool guys, you were in the heat of the moment, no harm done. Timmy says as he hops off his rider with it riding off to the garage. He looks around and sees the other 2 remaining students besides Riven. Hey, do you guys know who's that? He asks. Who? Brandon asks as Timmy points at someone. The guy in the orange. Timmy says, pointing at Naruto, I've never seen anyone in Red Fountain dressed in the color orange or with a mask on. He says. No. Never. But then again he is wearing a mask, covering his face so we can't get a real look at who they are, Sky says. Maybe he's a 3rd year. Brandon says. Maybe. Timmy says, putting his hand on his chin in thought. And since we're talking about unknowns, what about that guy? Brandon says as he points at the other mystery student. I've never seen him around campus. He says as the others look at this mysterious student and think of Brandon's words. Same, never seen him before. Sky says. With the others thinking about it. Before any one of them could further think about it, their attention was drawn by Saladin, who was standing by the edge of the ledge. Alright, we now move on to the dragon show. Saladin yells with the audience cheering for the show. Come on guys, let's get the show rolling. Brandon says as the others nod and go to get their dragons ready. Naruto, on the other hand, was frozen in shock and fear at what he just heard. Are you kidding me? Dragons? How the F am I going to deal with this? Naruto thought as he started sweat, while he was trying to figure out what to do now. The other student was looking at Brandon with a glint in his eyes, one that held something sinister. Soon, son of Erender, soon your father and kingdom will suffer from your death and the throne shall be in the hands of its rightful ruler, this student thought as he looked down to his right hand and saw what he had hidden under his sleeve before turning to his pocket and feels what was in it, his backup plan should he fail. As the specialists and others were getting ready for the dragon show, the Winx finally arrived at the stands as they breathe and look around the battlefield. Where is he? Where's Naruto? Stella asks as Bloom looks at the field again and sees blonde spiky hair on the field, who is standing still in the middle of the field. There he is. With the guys. Bloom says, pointing to Naruto. You sure that someone's here to kill Prince Sky? Tekna asks and Bloom nods. Positive. Bloom says. Then who is it? Musa asks. Bloom uses her aura reading as her eyes glow and looks at the field as she spots the aura she saw in the hallway with the killer's intent. There. That guy over there. Bloom shouts, pointing to the guy as the others see him slowly move to Sky and his buddies. He's moving to Sky. We have to warn him. Flora yells, with no hesitation. The girls run down the stands and to the ledge of the stand, right above the field. Sky. The girls yell, gaining the attention of those on the field, everyone in the stands, and those in the VIP section. That guy over there isn't a student. He's someone who wants to kill you. They yell, shocking everyone. What? Sky asks, confused by that claim. What? Naruto utters, he had snapped out of his problem when he heard the girls. What? A few people in the VIP section and the people in the stands yell in shock. Be that. What are the girls doing here? Faragonda thought, shocked to see the girls when she knew no one from Althea had an invitation to the exhibition beside her. Suddenly the mysterious student on the field roars, causing everyone to turn to him. Prince Sky, the throne and kingdom don't belong to your family. Your father shouldn't be king. The student yells before he charges toward Brandon. For some reason, he pulls out a purple dagger from under his sleeve, and just under he was about to reach Brandon to stab him with the dagger, a black blade clashes with the dagger, stopping him from his charge. Confused by what happened, the student looks at the blade and sees who wielded said blade. Whoa there dude, you can't go around running with a knife. You'll hurt someone with it. Naruto says as the student glares at him. Move, this has nothing to do with you. This student hisses at Naruto, who frowns. Sorry but no, not when you're yelling out you killing Sky, that's something I'm not letting you do. Naruto says as the student dangerously narrows his eyes at Naruto. I command you to move. Now. The student growls out as he moves his dagger from Naruto and tries to slash at Naruto with his blade, but the blonde just ducks and evades the slashes, barely of course, as he notices most of the slash attempts were aimed at his vital organs and head. This guy's trying to kill me just so he can get to Sky. Naruto thought before ducking under another slash with a bit of his hair getting cut off from the slash. Seeing as this student had his guard unchecked, Naruto quickly reacted to create some space between them. He grabs his sword with both hands as one of the engravings on the blade glows. Wind art, great gush. He yells out before slashing at the student who sees the attack coming and takes a step back from getting cut, but that's what Naruto wanted, as a large gush of wind arches from his blade and hits the student head on and sends him flying back across the field until he hit the ground and rolls a bit before coming to a stop. Naruto's attack was a surprise from the audience and those in the VIP section, as they thought that the move Naruto used was new teaching from Red Fountain, but two who were there were wide-eyed upon seeing what had happened. Kid/Naruto. Two certain people thought, they were in shock upon realizing who was it down there. The student gets up from the ground with some difficulty as he turns and glares at Naruto. This has nothing to do with you. Move or else you'll suffer the consequences for your in. The student roars at Naruto, who frowns. Like hell I am. Why are you driven to kill Sky anyway? Naruto asks. It is never of your business. Whatever business I have with Prince Sky is strictly mine and my alone. Besides, he's had this coming to him for so long. The student hisses out, pointing his dagger at Brandon for some reason. What the hell are you on about? Naruto asks, confused by why was this guy pointing at Brandon. I mean, look at him, he's a pretty chill dude. Plus, why are you pointing at Brandon? He asks. Not the brunette, you fool. The blonde next to him. The student yells as Sky and Brandon flinch. He is the true prince. He yells. Naruto was confused by this revilement. Wait, what? Naruto says, turning to the two behind him. You're not Sky. He asks and Sky lets out a sigh. And no, I'm not. I'm Brandon. Sky, well, more like Brandon says before pointing toward now Sky, he is Sky, the real prince. He says as Sky nods. Why yeah. Sky says before he realizes something. Wait, how do you know who we are? Because I know who you guys are. I'll tell you another time. Right now, let's focus on what's at hand here. Naruto says, turning back to the student who was watching Sky with a cold, hardened stare. Once again, I command you to step out of the way from performing my duties. The student says, but Naruto shakes his head. Sorry man, but I can't let you go and kill someone, it isn't right. Naruto says and the student sighs. Fine, have it your way. The student says, he moves his hand toward his back. But I should not fail my duty to my boss. For Lord Yoshinoya. He yells, pulling out another dagger before he charges toward Sky, to kill him, but once again, before he could even get remotely close to the blonde, Naruto intercepts him and blocks the daggers with his sword. The student snarls at this as he starts fighting Naruto, with Naruto retaliating, blocking and evading most of the student's attacks while trying to land some of his own onto the student, but the attacker was evading his attacks with ease, something Naruto took notice of. This goes on for a bit before the attacker lands a slash on Naruto's face, causing the blonde to jump back. Fortunately, the slash only cut through his mask and didn't injure him, but unfortunately, his face was now exposed. Great, there goes the mask. Naruto thought, eye twitching in annoyance. He looks up and sees the attacker rushing toward him with his daggers in hand, thinking that he was going in for the killing blow. Reacting fast, Naruto grabbed his sword's handle and started spinning the blade in the air while it caught fire. Due to the magical engraving on it, the spinning flaming sword started creating a ring of fire around him while the embers were floating in the air. Naruto waited just as the attacker to come near him for him to command the ring of fire around him with the embers in the air and makes them form a twister. Flame art, Ember Twister. He yells, sending the flaming tornado at the attacker as it hits the attacker and sends him up in the air. Seeing this, Naruto lifts his sword while the engraving on the blade starts glowing blue as the winds start to pick up. Wind art, Wind Razor Edge. He yells, slashing downward, as an arch of wind is sent from the slash and at the flaming twister, disrupting it while sending the attacker flying through the air and colliding onto the wall, where he slides off and lands onto the ground, covered in burns and cuts from the two attacks Naruto launched. Said blonde walks over to the downed attacker, cautiously with his blade still equipped, and saw he was trying to get back. Dude, stay down. With those burns and cuts you got, you're not getting back up anytime soon. So, just give up. Naruto says. But the attacker doesn't listen to him and continues to try and get back up, only to fall back onto the floor. No, never. The attacker grunts out, from the pain he was experiencing and from the strain he was putting himself through. He grits his teeth as he drops one of his daggers and reaches for something in his uniform. I shall not fail my duties to my lord, not when things are close to coming true. I will not fail, I shall not fail. The attacker shouts, pulling out a small bottle of purple sustains inside of the bottle. Naruto sees this and was confused by it, and before he could question what was the bottle, he sees the attacker open the cork and process downing its contains before him. After finishing the bottle's contains, the attacker drops the bottle with it shattering. Naruto watches on and sees the attacker begin to change in front of him and everyone else. The attacker starts inflating with his skin stretching beyond a normal point as it tears apart to reveal a dark hide underneath. His eyes become red windows and his jaw widens with the bridge of his nose stretched to the edge of his brow. What the? Naruto says, before his senses kick up into hyperdrive, alerting him to get back. He sees the attacker, or whatever was left of him, get back up on its feet and turn to him as it growls, its mouth beginning to glow purple energy, and that was when Naruto senses a big magic surge from it. He turns back to the others on the field with him. Get back! He yells before jumping back as the creature that was the attacker roars and fires a beam of purple magic at the boys on the field. They fortunately duck under the beam in time, but the beam soars to the stands where the spectators were, forcing them to flee as the beam hits the stands and create a large explosion. The creature stops firing the beam and turns to the specialists and Naruto and charges toward them and raises its arms, to smash the boys to the ground. The specialists hop back from the creature while Naruto just sidesteps out of the way as the creature smashes onto the earth, creating a large crater onto the earth. The creature then roars and starts swinging wild rapid strikes at Naruto, who was forced to duck/dodge all the strikes it sent at him, all while not giving him a chance to retaliate. Whoa, take it easy there. Are you trying to take my head off? Naruto yells before he is forced to duck from a wild slash the creature sent at his head. He gets back up and hops back, creating some distance from the creature. Guess you are. He deadpants while the creature gives chase. All while this was happening, the citizens in the stands were evacuating. The same was happening over at the VIP section, and in their hidden spot, the girls were seeing Naruto having some issues with the creature as it was chasing and trying to smash him. Oh no, Naruto's in trouble. Flora says, concerned and worried about Naruto as they see he is getting pushed back to a wall. We've got to go and help him. Bloom says as she prepares to go out and help while the others look at her in shock and surprise. But Bloom, we can't. Not while Faragonda is around. We'll get into serious trouble if we're seen. Stella says, knowing what could happen to them once they were exposed out there. Bloom turns back to them. Screw the rules and the fact we could get into trouble. Naruto and the others need our help, girls. So, let's go and give them that. Bloom says. The others looked at one another, thinking about doing this, and felt that Bloom was right. Since Naruto had helped them out a handful of times, it was time they pay back the favor. So, they nod to one another before turning back to Bloom and nod at her with serious expressions. Good. Let's do this. Magic Winx. The girls yell before a flash went off in their hiding spot. Back in the field, Naruto was punched by the creature and sent flying back and slams into a wall, next to the large door. He slides off the wall and shakes his head before spitting out some blood from his mouth as some of it was trailing down from the right corner of his mouth. He slowly got back to his feet and looks up, only to once again duck and roll away from a punch the creature sent toward him as the attack connected to the spot where Naruto was and made a large hole in it. The blonde rolls a bit more before flipping back to his feet and looking at the creature as it snarls at him. Hey, can we talk about this? Naruto asks, holding his hands up as he looks at the creature. Has anyone told you you've got some nice teeth? He cracks a joke, but the creature seemed to not understand him, or it did and wasn't amused by his joke. It roars before charging at Naruto, who sighs and spins his katana to a reverse grip, ready for whatever the creature going to throw at him. Just when the creature reaches him and is about to raise its hands to attack Naruto. Dragon shot. A large ball of fire magic soars through the air and collides with the creature, sending it flying and crashing through a wall. Surprised, Naruto looks at the creature before his senses pick up very familiar magical presences and smiles as he turns and sees the girls in their fairy forms. Girls. Man, am I glad to see you. Naruto says. Relieved to see them there with him. Naruto, are you okay? Flora asks as she and the girls land next to him while he rolls his shoulder, causing some cracks to be heard. Yeah, I'm fine. Just a bit sore is all. Naruto says before he turns to the creature and sees its mouth beginning to glow and realizes what is about to happen. Jump! He yells as the creature lets out a blast out of his mouth, toward them. The Winx jumped/flew off the ground and evaded the blast as it hit the wall behind them, and exploded from the blast connecting onto it while also taking out the door as the dragons from the other side started flying out in a panic, and this prompts the specialists to go and calm the dragons down. The Winx flies/lands a bit further from the creature while its attack stops. Naruto lifts his katana in the air and its engraving on the blade starts glowing brown, with the blade starting to shake and vibrate at a high speed. Earth art, spike game. Naruto yells as he swings his blade down and hits the ground with its tip. The earth shakes before tearing apart as ridged spikes shoot out of the earth and barrel toward the creature. The creature sees this and roars as it slams its fists down to the earth, and the shockwave from this collide with Naruto's attack, and the two attack nullify with one another. Great, that didn't work, Stella says, frowning from seeing the creature was still standing. Then maybe this will. Musa yells, lifting her hands and aiming at the creature as magic starts to conjure from them. Sonic blast. She yells, firing soundwave magic blasts at the creature. The attack connects to the creature, causing it to roar out from the blast as it falls to its knees and holds its ears. There. It's down, do something to keep it down. She yells while keeping her spell up. On it. Flora yells. She, Stella, and Tekna fly to the creature and surround it while aiming their open hands at it. Nature's binds. She yells, and roots emerge from underneath the creature and start wrapping around its arms and legs, restraining it in place as Stella and Tekna begin doing their spells. Firewall dome. Tekna shouts as she conjures up a dome of magic around the creature, trapping it. Luna's light. Stella yells as her magic surrounds Tekna's dome and enhances it as the creature inside is tossing around, hitting the dome. You guys might want to do something, we really can't hold this for too long. She yells, her tone strained as she and the others struggle to keep their spells up and contain the creature. Naruto and Bloom land in front of the dome. Bloom. Let's do a combo. Naruto yells, positioning his katana as the blade sparks to flames while Bloom nods. Right. Bloom says as her aura begins to form around her. Dragon. Fire began to form around Bloom's hands while the flames burning from Naruto's sword began to heat up. Flame art, Dragon's Fawn. The flames start forming a shape as Naruto and Bloom aim for the dome. Shot/pierce. The two yell as they fire their attacks at the dome. The two attacks soar through the air, and before they reach the creature, twist and combine into one large attack, changing into the form of a flaming eastern dragon. The dragon roars as it soars toward the dome and collides into the dome, imploding and taking the creature in a large fiery explosion, screaming from the force while the Winx are blown back from the shockwave and skid on the ground. They groan and sit up to see what had happened to the creature and are shocked to see a large, molten crater where the dome previously was, with the attacker now back to normal, lying in said crater, unconscious and covered in second and third degree burns in various parts of his body while having tatters for pants. W.O. Musa mutters, shocked at seeing the results of that attack. D didn't expect that. Bloom says, also shocked by that attack. Why yeah. Naruto says as he and the others get up from the floor. Sky. The Winx heard someone yell and turned to where the yelling was coming from. They see a girl their age who had wavy pale blonde hair, citron orange/amber eyes, and medium to tan skin. They saw she was a fairy like the girls. She wore a dress out of an ivory bodice with a collar connected to it and a red skirt and had on maroon boots, and a red bracelet and hairpiece. Her wings were maroon with red tips. She also wore a headband that was decorated with jewels and feathers. This fairy flew past them and rushed toward Sky, who finally got the dragons to calm down. He hears someone yell toward him and turns to see who was it, but instead, gets tackled down to the floor by whoever tackled him. He looks down and sees this unknown fairy hugging him tightly. He instantly recognized who this fairy was. Diaspro. Sky yells, with the fairy, now known to be Diaspro, as she just hugs him close to her. Sky. Oh, I'm relieved that you're safe. I was worried about you when that person tried to kill you. Diaspro cries out, putting her head into Sky's chest, and cries while hugging him ever so tightly, afraid that if she was to let go of him, he'd disappear. Huh. Stella utters, watching this scene play out in front of them. What's going on here? She asks. Naruto turns to them and realizes that they probably weren't around to hear the revealment earlier in the fight. Oh yeah, he isn't Brandon. He's actually Prince Sky. Naruto explains, with the girls turning to him, taking that they misheard him, but he nods in confirmation to his words. Sky looks at Naruto and finally sees his face. Naruto? Is that you? Sky asks and Naruto turns to him. Sup dude? Long time no see. Naruto greets, smiling while placing his sword on his shoulder. Diaspro finally moves her head from Sky's now wet chest and looks at the Winx. Sky, dear. Do you know who these delinquents are? Diaspro asks, causing the Winx to frown at what she called them while Sky sighs. They're my friends. We've run into each other during the year and had helped one another out. Sky explains. Diaspro critically stares at the Winx, especially the girls, looking at them as if they were threats while turning her head to Naruto and thinking nothing of him until she nods. I see. Diaspro says, clinging to him. Yeah. Sky mutters, knowing it'll take a while to get Diaspro to let go of him. He looks at Naruto and finally asks the question that was on his mind. Say Naruto, why are you in that uniform? He asks and Naruto and the girls momentarily flinch but calm themselves down. It's a long story. Naruto says, rubbing the back of his head. Over at the VIP section, the headmasters of all three schools were looking down at the field. Are those your fairies, Faragonda? Saladin asks, seeing the girls in their fairy forms. He hears Faragonda wasn't responding to his question and he turns to her and sees she was looking down, staring at the teens, specifically one of them. Faragonda. He calls out to her and she snaps out of her thoughts. Oh. Sorry, I was distracted by something, Saladin, but yes, they are. Faragonda sighs out, feeling a headache coming. I see. Saladin says before he taps his staff onto the ground. They've ruined my exhibition. He yells, angry by this as Griffin smirks. It would appear my students aren't the only ones who are excessive. Griffin says, making Faragonda sigh. Saladin looks down and sees Naruto. And just who is that boy in my academy's uniform? I've never seen him before. Saladin says, pointing down at, Faragonda, and Griffin see where he was pointing toward and sees Naruto. Faragonda freezes in fear while Griffin narrows her eyes at him. Wait, that child. I've seen him before. Griffin says. You have? Saladin asks and Griffin nods. Yes, he and those girls snuck into my school months prior and caused damage to one of my archives. Griffin says. I see. Well, he isn't one of my students. So who is he and how did he get a hold of one of my uniforms? Saladin asks. I can explain that. The three turn and see Hank entering the VIP section. The guards stationed there all stand in attention and bow as he passes them while he nods at them until he reaches the three headmasters. Oh, Sir Warlock. I wasn't expecting you to be here. It's a pleasure to see you again after all these years. Saladin says, smiling at Hank while bowing with Hank smiling at him. The pleasure is all mine, old friend. Hank says, returning the bow. You said you could explain just who that ruffian is. Griffin says, pointing down at Naruto as Hank stands back up and looks at her. Ah yes, that child is my employee at my shop and he's also my apprentice. Hank says, and this surprises Saladin and Griffin while Faragonda lets out a sigh of relief. Really? Saladin and Griffin say and Hank nods. Yes. Hank says. Griffin crosses her arms. I didn't expect someone like you to take on an apprentice, Sir Warlock. Especially after all this time since the Great War. Griffin says while giving the old man a look of no convinced. Hank shakes his head while chuckling. Well, time changes a person, you should know this all too well, Griffin. I know I'm not long for this world and need to pass on my teachings to another. Plus, the boy had impressed me with his drive and willingness to learn the arts of swordsmanship. Hank says. And that strange technique he used in the battle? What was that, for I've never seen anything like that before in my lifetime? Saladin asks. It's a style of his creation while under my tender. He developed the style while experimenting with runes. He calls this style, elemental art. Hank says as Saladin hums in thought. Interesting. Saladin says while rubbing his chin. And do you think he could teach this style to others, he asks, looking at Hank who just shrugs his shoulders. That is something I do not know, old friend. You must ask him to get that answer. Hank says as Saladin nods and looks down to the field and stares at Naruto with intrigue. I see. Saladin says. So, what must we do with the little event crashers? Griffin asks. Let me deal with my wayward apprentice while Faragonda deals with her fairies. In the meantime, you might want to investigate this, Saladin. Hank says and Saladin nods. Indeed. This is an incident that needs to be investigated. This is something we need to look into. Saladin says. Hank discreetly turns to Faragonda and smiles at her while sending her a wink, something she knows as she nods at him. Thank you, Hank. I own you dearly. Faragonda thought, relieved that he kept Naruto's true status hidden. Hank walks over to the balcony and looks down at the field. Boy! Hank yells, causing Naruto to freeze in place while slowly turning his head toward the balcony and sees Hank, looking down at him. You are in a lot of trouble for this stunt. Be prepared for hell when I get my hands on you. He yells. Naruto lets out a shiver, now realizing he was screwed since Hank only calls him boy when he messed up big time. Oh, man. Naruto utters, dreading what was to come from Hank. Girls. Faragonda yells and the girls all stiffen as they too turn to face her. We'll have a chat in my office when we get back to school. She says with a stern expression on her face, one that was telling the girls that she wasn't playing around. Yes, ma'am. The girls say, knowing that they couldn't talk out of this. Guess you guys have to leave. Sky says, now standing up while Desapro was still holding on to him, and the Winx sigh. Yeah, we do. Naruto says. Okay, guess I'll see you all later, and, good luck. Sky says, pitying them since he knew that they were in deep. Thanks. The Winx say before they start leaving the field, knowing that they are in a lot of trouble for this stunt and can only dread what's to come. Althea Kitchen Althea, Magix. Friday morning. It had been a few days after the Red Foundation exhibition and after the Winx intrusion into said exhibition where they caused chaos. Needless to say, they were punished heavily for their actions. I hate this. Stella's voice echoes through the kitchen where she and the rest of the Winx are currently located. For their punishment. Faragonda told the girls they'd be on kitchen and cleaning duties for the rest of the semester, and to say Stella was fed up with all this would be a great understatement. I hate doing all these dishes. My delicate hands are starting to get wrinkly. Stella yells as she drops her sponge into the sink and looks at her wet, now wrinkly hands. We know you hate doing this, we've heard you shout it for the last 3 days now. Musa says, not amused by Stella's attitude. Be glad we're not doing cleaning duties for the school. Since we all know what happened last time. Tekna says while she was scrubbing a crusty pan. But. Stella was about to say when Bloom, who stopped cleaning her pans and turned to Stella. Please Stella, just do this and be grateful Ms. Faragonda didn't expel us when she could have. Let's just finish this and we'll be done for now. Bloom says. Stella looks at him for a bit before she sighs and nods, knowing that Bloom and the others are right. Complaining wasn't going to get their job done faster. Okay. Stella says before she turns back to her sink and resumes cleaning her dishes. The others returned to work and worked in a comfortable silence until Stella had a question in her mind. Has anyone heard from Naruto? She asks, and her question causes everyone to, since it's been some time since I last talked to him. She says, and everyone else looks at each other before. I talked to him last night and he sounded exhausted. Flora says, and everyone turns to her. Naruto? Exhausted? Musa asks with a raised eyebrow as Flora nods. Yes. Flora says. What happened to him to be exhausted? Tekna asks. He didn't say much, only that he wished that he was dead so he wouldn't have to endure this anymore. Flora says, and everyone frowns. DMN, guess his punishment is worse than ours. Bloom says. Do we even want to know just what his punishment is? She says, and Stella shakes her head. I'd rather not know about it. Stella says, and the others agree. They go back to their tasks and continue for a bit before the door to the kitchen opens and Griselda enters to check on their progress. Are you girls finished cleaning the dishes? Griselda asks, and the girls nod. Yes, Mississippi. The girls say while Griselda looks at the clean dishes and sees they're clean. Good. Now hurry on, your classes are about to begin. Griselda says, clapping her hands, and the girls let out a sigh of relief that they were dismissed for now. And I expect you all to be back here after dinner to clean the dishes. She says as the girls clean up their stations. Yes, Mississippi. The girls say before they exit the kitchen as they make their way to their dorm to get ready for the day. I'm not looking forward to later. Musa says, dreading supper time since it was spaghetti night and the dishes were normally messy by the end of supper time. You and me both. Bloom says. As they walk through the halls, she thinks about their other friend. I wonder what Naruto could be doing. She says. Maybe he's at work. Flora says, and that did make sense, that was where he normally was. Maybe. Tekna says. They continue walking in a comfortable silence, and while the girls were right about their friend being in at work, but he wasn't exactly working at the moment. Warlock Parts and Repair Shop, Magic City, Magix. Morning. Over at Warlock Parts and Repair Shop, things were. Come on, boy. You can do better than that. For the better word, intense. Hank was shouting at Naruto, who was busy sweating while standing. Now, that would not be that difficult, but he was balancing on a piece of log on one foot, over a pit of burning red coals, while juggling 3 heavy swords with weights on his legs and arms. I am trying here. It's hard to keep your footing on a freaking small log. Naruto yells, but he flinches, which nearly makes him lose his balance and control over the swords he was juggling when he sees Hank turn to him and send a mean glare. "Was that backtalk, boy?" Hank says in a cold tone, something Naruto has only heard during their time in training, and he knew to wake the sleeping beast. "And no, sir." Naruto stutters while Hank huffs. "Then keep up your training. I will not be satisfied until I see you on the floor, having completed this task before the afternoon." Hank yells and Naruto nods. "Why yes, sir." Naruto shouts as he continues his training. Unaware of the horror that was about to unfold in just a few hours. Outskirts of Gardenia, California, United States of America. Birth. Afternoon. A few hours later. Just on the outskirts of Gardenia, a portal appears and 4 figures step through it and land on the grassy hill. The portal appears as they look at the gorgeous city. "You sure she'll come?" one figure asks as another one beside her laughs a little. "Of course, sisters. Once we tell her we have her parents as captives, she'll come rushing to save them." This figure says while the first figure just looks at them. "And how can we even send her a message about her parents, since we can't exactly go to Alfea given what happened last time?" The first figure says while the second one looks at her and smirks before turning to the third figure. "Stormy, tell her what you know," the first figure says as the third figure smirks. "I saw her call her parents in Magix the other day by complete chance. Bloom always calls them every day after her school day is done. So, all we have to do is go to her parents' house and wait for her to call and we tell her we've got her parents. That could be enough for her to come alone and try and rescue them. Right, Icy?" The third figure, Stormy, says as the first figure lets out a dangerous smirk, one that promises pain and misery. "Yes, and once she's here, we'll beat her until she's weak and rip the power of the dragon flame out of her fairy body and finally have the power we longing." The first figure, Icy, yells as she begins to laugh manically while her sisters copy her laugh. "Yes. Ha 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 ha." Darcy and Stormy yell with their laugh echoing out the empty hill as they were about to begin their plan. Courtyard, Alfea Magix. Evening. It was the end of the day and we find our heroines walking across the courtyard on campus with their heads down, all while with looks of exhaustion on their faces. Sigh, what a day. Bloom sighs and the others agree. "Yeah, I'm so tired, and we still have dish duty in a bit, I really don't want to do it." Stella mutters. "Then what do you want to do, Stella?" Musa asks. "Sleep, just sleep," Stella says as the others look at her. "For once, I agree with you," Musa says while the others silently agree to that statement. "But we still have dish duty." She sighs, her shoulders slouching, dreading the manual chore ahead. "Well, we do have an hour before dinner time, so we could go back to our dorm and take a short break before heading down to get ready," Flora suggests, and the others thought about the idea before thinking it was good enough, to recharge a bit before heading back to work. "That sounds like a good idea, let's do it," Stella says, actually looking forward to this brief rest. But before the group of friends could go to their rooms and rest, Bloom stops. "You guys go on up to the dorm. I have to call my parents and check if they're doing okay," Bloom says, and the others nod, understanding her completely. "Okay, have fun talking to your parents," Tekna says, and Bloom smiles as she nods. "Will do, see you in a bit," Bloom says as the others leave for their dorm. She then turns around and walks to the phone booths located outside the campus. She enters one of them, puts in the money needed and dials her house number, and waits for the line to pick on the other side, and she doesn't have to wait long as it was picked up. "Hey Mom, how are you?" she greets. Only for nothing to come from the other side of the line, which confused her. "Mom? Dad? Are you there?" Bloom asks, again nothing comes from the other line, and she started to get worried, thinking the line isn't strong enough when someone does eventually speak in the other line. but it is neither Bloom's mom nor dad. Oh, there here a voice spoke from the other line, and this confused Bloom, since while she felt she knew the voice from somewhere, she couldn't pinpoint where. Who's this? Where's my parents? Bloom yells as concern fills her mind and heart, thinking something horrible has happened to her parents. Oh Bloom, did you forget who I am after all this time? I mean, we've met a bunch of times and we've been at each other's throats all year. The voice says, and this makes Bloom think, the person on the other side of the line spoke like they knew one another and had been at each other's throats all year, but the only ones who were at her and the other's throats were. Her eyes widen as realization strikes her. I see. Bloom utters, and the person on the other side laughs a little. Ah, you do remember. That's really sweet for you. Icy says as she laughs. Bloom's eyes remain wide for a bit before they darken, while her irises start changing from blue color to bright orange while her pupils start to slit. Where are my parents? Bloom says. Now, Bloom. They're here and safe, but they really can't do anything at the moment, since they're preoccupied. Icy says as Bloom starts to get angry. What are they doing? Bloom growls, her fangs were now showing. Not much, just sitting around and having a nice time. Icy says while Bloom's anger was increasing. What did you do to my parents? Bloom again growls as an aura starts to emit from her body. Now that would ruin the surprise. But I'll tell you what, you can come and save them. But come alone or else say bye-bye to dear old mommy and daddy. Icy says. We'll be waiting Bloom, and the clock is ticking. So you better hurry. See you in a bit, she says, and the call ends with a click and one continuous beep. But Bloom didn't hear the phone from her ear. She stood in the booth. She was silent while she stood in the booth, her mind racing at the thought of her parents being held captive by Icy and her friends, and her anger flooding her vision as she crushes the phone with her hand while the temperature in the booth starts to climb. And suddenly, she snaps. Magic Winx. She shouts and a bright flash of orange goes off from within the booth before an explosion happens and Bloom shoots out of the now destroyed phone booth as she floats in the sky in her fairy form with an intense flaming aura around her. The explosion and sudden spike in magical presence alerts everyone in Alfea as they go out of their dorm or go into the courtyard to see what is happening. What was that? Stella yells. She and the others exit their dorm and were on their balcony to see what is going on when they see Bloom in the sky before she takes off in a certain direction. Was that, Bloom? She asks, thinking she's seeing things. Yeah, it was. Where's she going though? Musa asks as Flora looks at the orange light that was Bloom and sees where she was heading. To the city. Flora says. Why? Tenka asks, wondering what was going on with Bloom to make her go to the city, and she wasn't the only one thinking that. I have no idea. Stella says as she turns to the others. Come on, let's go and find her to ask what's wrong. She says, and the others nod to the idea. Magic Winx. The girls yell and transform into their fairy forms. They take off into the skies in pursuit of Bloom to ask what is going on, but due to the delay in transformation and the boost in magic reserves, Bloom is long gone by the time they were in the skies. Seeing this, the girls decide to head to the city in search of their friend while one of them heads in another direction to ask for help. Peter's residence, Gardenia, California, United States of America. Birth. Evening. After going through an interdimensional neural teleportation network, NTN, portal from Magix to Gardenia, Bloom arrives in her hometown and she was currently speeding through the night chill night toward her parents' house to go and rescue them, all while she's thinking about ways to maim the tricks for this. With little effect and delay, Bloom arrives at her home, she opens the door, and enters the living room, hoping to find them there, and she gets her wish as she sees a sight of horror. Her parents were completely encased in ice, with their heads being the only body parts not frozen, but frost was on their faces as they looked pale and weak. Mom! Dad! Bloom yells, she rushes to them to check if they are still alive, she checks their pulse and to her relief, they are but their pulse were faint. Upon hearing her voice, her dad's eyes slowly open and he looks at her, seeing her expression of concern. "B. Bloom, is that, you?" Bloom's dad utters, his voice weak as he looks at her. Run. He utters. "I see you've seen our little welcoming present." A voice spoke beside Bloom as she turned and was hit by a blast of magic which sent her flying back and crashing into the wall. She groans from the pain as she sits up and shakes her head while 4 figures enter the room. They were Icy, Darcy, Stormy and their ogre minion. "Welcome home, Bloom. We've been waiting for you to arrive," Icy says with a smirk. Bloom's eyes glow profoundly orange as the rage she was feeling erupts tenfold. You beaches." Bloom growls as the aura emitting around her starts to intensify to the point where the ground she was sitting start to burn from the heat she was emitting. "I'll kill you," she shouts, her voice sounding like a dragon as she shoots toward the Tricks at a high speed. The Tricks see this and react. "Ogre now!" Icy yells and their ogre roars as he rushes toward Bloom. The two meet in the middle of the room, and Bloom was about to fire one of her magic blasts at the ogre but he was faster than her as he punches her square in the chest and his attack sends her flying across the room, crashing through the wall, fly across the street and collide into one of the parked cars on the other side of the street. Bloom slides off the car and lands face first to the ground. She was fortunate the aura she had tanked the majority of the attack, or else she'd be out cold. Bloom starts to regain her composure as the ogre bursts through the hole in the wall and jumps in the air with his arms raised in the air, ready to smash her into the ground. Bloom sees this and reacts. She rolls herself out of the way as the ogre crashes to the spot she was moments ago, creating a crater in the road while she then performs a series of flips before she leaps and flies into the air just above the ogre. Seeing this as an opportunity to take him out, she conjures her magic to her hands and readies her attack. Dragon shot. Boom yells, as she fires 2 massive fireballs at the ogre, with him having 0 time to react to the attack and gets hit by the attack, resulting in the ogre being sent flying into the air and Bloom prepares her next attack. Once she sees the ogre, Flaming Blitz. She yells before she fires a barrage of fire-based magic blasts at the ogre, all landing on his body, resulting in an explosion as the ogre crashes back to the road, lying in a crater burnt and smoking. Seeing her opponent was done, Bloom calls out the one she wanted to kill. "Come on out here, Tricks. It's you I want to face." She yells and she didn't have to wait long as the Tricks flew out of her house and were in the air, facing her. "So, you want to face us? Fine, but be careful what you wish for," Icy says as she and her sisters laugh a bit while Bloom just growls. The 4 circle in the air, not once taking their eyes off, just waiting for one of them to make the first move. Stormy gets impatient and strikes first in the form of firing a bolt of lightning at Bloom, who just dodges the attack as it hits one of the buildings behind her and she sends a dragon shot at them, but the witches just dodge the attack too. The 4 then take to the skies of Gardenia when they engage in aerial combat. Darcy tries to halt Bloom by making a barrier in front of the ferry, but Bloom was quick to stop just before she was about to crash into the barrier. She turns around and fires Flaming Blitz at the Tricks, but they teleport about the attack path and reappear behind Bloom as Icy fires a barrage of ice spikes at the Earth Ferry. Bloom turns around just to see the spikes heading to her and braces for the hit, but the spikes just melt before ever hitting her thanks to the aura she had emitting off her. Seeing her magic was useless at this time, Icy tasks Darcy and Stormy to take care of Bloom while she gets the spell ready. Stormy rushes at Bloom and grabs the redhead as she tosses her toward Darcy, who fires a sound-based blast at Bloom with it hitting her, and the attack disorients Bloom and Stormy hits her with an electric attack, shocking the hell out of the poor girl as she falls and lands on a roof of a building below them. Bloom groans and pants from the pain as she gets up and looks up to the sky and sees the Tricks were looking down at her. "Had enough, Bloom?" Icy asks and Bloom growls as she fires a fireball at the trio, but they easily dodge the attack and Stormy again fires an electric attack at her, and Bloom easily evades the attack, flipping off the roof and flies toward the trio. They re-engage their aerial combat where the four just fire their respective attacks at each other. Most were able to be avoided while some of them had to take the hit. Icy sees Bloom panting and the aura around her was less intense than it was earlier and found this interesting. "Alright, let's leave it at that," Icy says, her words stopping Darcy and Stormy from firing their next attacks. "Come on, we've still got one last card to play," she says. Catching on what Icy was saying, the two nod and stop their attacks and the three witches disappear in front of Bloom, leaving her there confused. "One last card to play?" Bloom asks, wondering what Icy meant by that, and her eyes widen as she realizes where they could have gone. "Mom! Dad!" she yells, fearing for her parents' lives. Bloom bolts back toward their house, hoping she'd get there first before the witches. Unaware that a flash went off where she was and two certain people arrive in Gardenia in search of her. Bloom quickly arrive home and to her horror, Icy was by her parents, holding two ice daggers by their throats. "Mom! Dad!" Bloom shouts, her eyes filled with fear. "Not too quick on the draw are we, Bloom?" Icy says with a smirk. "Now Bloom, if you don't want your parents to die, surrender now and don't do anything fun. Or else it's bye-bye to dear mommy and daddy. The choice is yours, Bloom. Choice wisely." She says, to prove her point to Bloom, she pushes the ice daggers a bit into her parents' throats and BLD was drawn. Seeing that she couldn't do anything to stop the tricks, not without having her parents seriously hurt or even killed, Bloom clenches her fists and grits her teeth as she de-transforms back to her civilian self. "Wonderful choice, Bloom. Your parents would be proud," Icy says before she looks at Darcy and Stormy, and they nod as Darcy fires a sound blast at Bloom, sending the Earth Fairy soaring across the room before she hits the wall before falling to the ground. Bloom tries to get up but she's relentlessly shocked by Stormy's attack, causing her to scream out in pain. After a bit, the witch stops and leaves Bloom on the ground, twitching from the electricity coursing through her body. Icy moves from the trapped parents and walks toward Bloom where she stands above her as Bloom starts getting off from the floor and looks at the tricks with bruises and tears running down her cheeks while BLD seeps from the corner of her mouth. "Why? Why do this? What are you after to do this? What did I do to deserve this?" Bloom yells, desperate to know why would the tricks do this to her. Icy just shakes her head in amusement at Bloom's breakdown. "Oh, dear fairy. This is bigger than you could possibly realize. What we're after is something our ancestors were after for centuries. We're after the dragon flame that's in you," Icy says, and Bloom looks at her. "What?" Bloom says. "That's right. The three dark witches are our ancestors and they were after the power of the great dragon flames for centuries. They understood its tremendous powers and stopped at nothing to have it under their control. They even went as far as to destroy Domino to get it, and they almost succeed, if it wasn't for the former keeper of the dragon flame, the nymph of Domino and Magix, Daphne." Icy explains, and Bloom's eyes widen upon hearing that name. Daphne?" Bloom mutters. It's been too long since she's last heard or seen of Daphne. "Yes, she transferred the dragon flame from her body into yours and sent you far away from your BRTH planet. Our ancestors were able to get rid of Daphne, but by then, it was too late. You were long gone and they spent the remainder of their lives searching for you, only for that to be in vain. But we're here, to continue where they left off. To finish what they started," Icy says. Bloom hears this, but she was still thinking about Daphne and what she did. Why would she put such a power into her of all people? Why did she put the dragon flame into me? Why me out of everyone else? Bloom asks, and Icy just shakes her head again. "You still don't get it, do you? The great dragon chose to sleep on Domino and the dragon flame was bestowed on those worthy of it, those in the royal family. Daphne was the crowned princess of Domino and she transferred the dragon flame into her baby sister. That baby was you, Bloom. You're the last-born daughter of the king and queen of Domino and the last to the throne. You, Bloom, are the long-lost princess of Domino. Icy yells, shocking Bloom to her very core. She was a princess to a kingdom. Icy floats over to Bloom and grabs her chin and forces her to look at her in the eyes. And you're the guardian to the greatest power in the known Magix universe and, soon this power shall be ours. She says as she lets go of Bloom and turns to Darcy. She's all yours, sis. She says and Darcy steps forward with a smirk. And not a moment sooner. Darcy says before she fires a sonic blast at Bloom, causing the girl to scream before she passes out. Icy then used her magic and levitate Bloom off the ground and then used her ice magic to restrain her. Let's begin the ritual. Icy says and the two nod as they couldn't wait to do it as they were closer to the power they longing more than ever. The trio release and drew out their magic as their vacuums appear and began glowing. The trio then began performing a chant as their vacuums began to glow and link to one another with dark magic. The dark magic link hits Bloom and she suddenly begins screaming. Ah! Bloom cries out as she feels she is being torn apart from within as if something is being pulled out of her. And something was being ripped in as a ball of glowing orange magic shot out of Bloom's body and flew up to the Trix's vacuum where it was absorbed into them. Upon this happening, the three witches feel a tremendous boost in their magic reserves and feel this power course through their bodies. Wow, this power, it's incredible. Darcy says. I can feel my power growing stronger. Stormy says, she lifts her hand to her face and sees the lighting surging off from her palms. Icy looks at her hands and sees frost coursing off from her palms and smirks darkly. Finally, after long these years, the power of the great dragon, the dragon flame is finally in our hands. Icy says. She was feeling lust from this power coursing through her body, it was intoxicating. She felt like this power was a part of her that was missing. She turns to Bloom and knew one thing she had to do. And to make sure that no one will get in our way in control of this power, we have to get rid of the last obstacle in our path. She says, she moves over to Bloom and summons an ice dagger, and places the cold blade to Bloom's throat. She was about to use the blade to end Bloom's life when Solarian flare. A voice yells and a bright flash goes off in the room, forcing the Trix to close their eyes while Icy drops her dagger. Wind art, grand push. Another voice yells and the Trix were pushed away from Bloom by a wind base attack. The Trix hits the floor and remain there as the flash dissipates as the trio of witches open their eyes and see Stella, in her fairy form, and Naruto with his katana in hand, standing in front of Bloom, protecting her from them. Get away from her. Naruto yells, glaring at them. Well, look who we have here. The princess and the hero. Guess you're here to save the day and stop us. Darcy says as she and Stormy get up and ready themselves for battle. Yeah, let's. Stormy yells as lighting starts surging off her body. Icy gets up and holds her hand out to her sisters, causing them to look at her as she stares at the two Winx members. No. We have what we came for. Let's get out of here. Icy says before she snaps her fingers and their knocked-out ogre appears beside them on the floor. She snaps her fingers again and they start to vanish, but before they vanish, she looks at Naruto. We'll be back for you next. She says as they vanish, leaving the two in the room with the family. What does she mean by that? Naruto thought, wondering what Icy was talking about. But he couldn't think about that now as he still had to help the Peters family out of their ice prisons. Come on Stella, you get Bloom out of there while I go and get her parents out. He says and Stella nods. Right. Stella says as she gets to work on freeing Bloom. Naruto rushes over to her parents and quickly cuts them out of their ice prison and catches them as they fall. He sets them down on the ground and uses his sword to create a flame and holds it near them to heat them up. Are you alright? Naruto asks, seeing them nod while shivering, and also sees their skin regaining its colors. Why yes, we are. Bloom's mom stutters while shivering as she and her husband move closer to the fire. Thank you. She says, and Naruto nods. You're welcome. Naruto says. Naruto. Naruto hears Stella yell out to him and he turns to face the living room. Come here. We have a serious problem here. She yells. Okay, I'm coming. Naruto yells back before he turns back to the parents. I'll be back to check up on you too, just stay near my sword to regain your heat, and don't worry, it won't burn your floor. He says as he places his sword on the ground and lets the two adults warm up to it. He rushes back to the living room and finds Stella holding Bloom near her as the red hair was also shivering and looks very weak. What's up, Stella? He asks. I. Bloom stutters, he sees her eyes were widened and she looks extremely pale. Bloom, what's wrong? Naruto asks, concern in his tone and his expression. My magic's gone. Bloom utters after a while, and the two blondes look at her. In shock. What? Stella asks while Naruto closes his eyes and focuses on his sensing ability. My powers, my magic, it's gone. Bloom utters as Naruto focuses on her and his eyes open wide in shock as he feels nothing from her like he normally should have. Her magic presence, I can't feel it. Naruto mutters in shock as tears begin to form in Bloom's eyes while Stella looks at Bloom with concern in her eyes. Oh, Bloom. Stella says as she hugs Bloom as the red hair begins to sob while Naruto just clenches his fists in anger at this. Feeling the tricks had something to do with this, and he was thinking about ways to kill the tricks when he senses something. Wait, another magic presence? Naruto thought, wondering what he was sensing. He focuses his senses and feels a massive magical presence somewhere in the city, and it was powerful, like extremely, not like Bloom but still. Who am I sensing? Who has this much presence? He thought as he felt it was someone, and the magic presence felt light, meaning that this person was a fairy, but that should be impossible since Bloom was the last known earth fairy, unless. Naruto shakes his head as he hears Bloom's sobs and turns to her. He sees her crying onto Stella's shoulder and feels bad for her. He decides to put that thought back for now as he bends down and hugs the two, feeling for Bloom's loss. Unaware to any of them, this person was sensing them too and was confused about what was happening to them. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 10. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Pixel's fanbook on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.